The way we communicate information can actually cause trouble for people. I want to say here that parenting is a skill. We can say parenting adolescents is a creative experience.
An award of excellence by the Uniport Students Union in the year 2007. She is a lecturer with the University of Portharcourt. She's married to Professor Chris Akani, and their union is blessed with 4 lovely children. Join me in make welcome Professor Ofone Akani.
Good afternoon, distinguished audience. It's been a long day. This program is actually titled Thriving, Not Just Surviving, Building Adolescent Resilience. Adolescents are found in an environment, and if we understand the environment, then we'll be able to take the journey to understand what they pass through and arrive at why we have to build their resilience. And so I'm going to be talking about the socio-environmental context of adolescents. About the socio-environmental context of adolescents. So I'll take it in that order. Adolescence, what adolescence is, we've been talking about adolescents, and then the social environment, why we need to discuss adolescents and their social environment, and then adolescent development, problems of the adolescents and the rest of them. Adolescents are people between the ages of 10 and 19, and for the purposes of the National Policy on Adolescent Health, I don't know whether they have returned to what it should be, or they still have, they extend it to people that are up to 24 to capture the youth completely. So that policy at the time was stating 10 to 24 years for young persons. WHO regards young persons as those between the ages of 10 and 24. And then, of course, youth is regarded as those between 15 and 24 years. Now, the adolescent period is a period of transition when people are going from childhood and on their journey to adulthood. Then in between, of course, they have to pass through the adolescent period to arrive in adulthood. Now, this is a transition period, and it's a challenging period because it's accompanied by a lot of changes, physical, emotional, psychosocial. And this is a period when the adolescent does not want to be called a child, and yet they are not adults. But they want to be treated like adults. And then it involves periods of stress, innovation, experimentation, and disorganization. I need to stress that this is a period when also the attachment to family is beginning to loosen gradually, and attachment to the external is increasing. So within this period, you tend to find that there may be conflicts in the house because of imported behavior, and parents don't seem to understand their children anymore. However, they also don't seem to understand that the children themselves are fighting with conflicts. And so, within this period, we have 3 categories of adolescents. You find those who are just beginning the journey, you find the people who are in the middle of the journey, and those who are towards the tail end of the journey. So we call them early, middle, and late adolescents. Now, the interesting thing about them and why they are categorized like this is because you may say, after all of them are adolescents. Yes, they are all adolescents, but they are not experiencing the same, they are not having the same experiences equally. Some people have had their own bouts and moved on and have gotten used to the stage. Some others are beginning to experience what they don't know before. And then the way they adjust to these changes also differ. We'll soon get to know how. Now, these adolescents are found in homes, schools, streets, they're in churches, they're marketplaces and business places. So there's no particular place you go to and say reserved for adolescents. Now, talking about the social environment. The human social environment encompasses the immediate physical surroundings, the social relationships that people keep, the cultural milieu within which activities or their manner of behavior and actions are defined, and the way they function and interact. And so components of the social environment include the built infrastructure, industrial and occupational structure, the labor markets, the social and economic processes that they undergo. We also find that, there are communities you enter, you say, this community looks so poor. And then you enter another community, you find that everything seems to be comfortable, which is why some people, when they get into an environment, they don't want to move because they find comfort in that environment. And then we also have, Sayphin people have just told us about human and health services, and they have given us hope today that the minister is doing something about social services, human services, and all human health services. Hopefully, we will be alive to benefit from it. And then, of course, in these environments, there are power interplays as well. So, power relations, race relations, social inequalities. Yes, you come into an environment, some people are very comfortable, some others are very poor. And they can hang around your gate to even get a meal a day. But it's the same community, and they are all communities. And then we have cultural practices that sometimes define who people are. You go to a particular community, certain groups of persons are treated in a particular way to conform to a certain culture. And of course, we have religious institutions and their practices and beliefs. And so, when we talk about social environments, we find that the experiences, like I said, can be at multiple scales, often simultaneously, including households, key networks, neighborhoods, towns, cities, and regions. So you come into an environment, a community, you have these various organizations, but they still make up a community, right? And the funny thing about it is that you cannot say that every community is the same, that all the communities you get into are the same. Certain things define the communities. And then the social environments are dynamic and change over time as a result of both internal and external forces. For instance, the way your village was 20 years ago is not likely to be the same thing now, because things have changed. Resources have changed. Human intellect have changed. People have advanced, and then they are making the changes. But then even though changes have occurred, some communities are still better placed than others. And people are growing up in those communities where you have people whose communities have not developed, feeling still rejected and as if they have been abandoned, and other people are better placed. And we still have our young people all living there. And there are relationships of dependency among the social environments of different local areas. For instance, a village here may not have kind of facilities or shops that may be, harboring some of the things that they will need to do some development in the environment. They need to transport themselves through roads linked up by other communities to get to where they have to get to. So you find that communities are interdependent. What you have in your community, others may not have. And what they have, you may not have. And so they are linked up. So you find that there are relationships of dependency among the social environments of different local areas, because these areas are connected through regional, national, and international social and economic processes and power relations, including airports and flights. So you also find that in each community you have family composition, and these communities have their customs and traditions. You also find that educational levels vary, standards of living vary, place of women in the workforce also vary. Not just in the workforce, even in the society. They decide some of the communities decide what happens to their female folk. And then birth and death rates also vary depending on their developmental levels. So why do we discuss adolescence and social environment? Now, look at where the adolescent is, in the middle there. And look at the factors that, weigh down on the adolescent, or that the adolescent has to relate with to arrive where he or she is going. You have family trying to teach and manage the adolescent. The adolescent goes to school, the teachers are giving their own information. The media is there. Remember, we are talking about phones today. And the young people are collecting all sorts of information that may pattern their behavior and their reactions. And then you have the culture in the environment. And sometimes some of the young people have to undergo certain ceremonies, to be regarded as having grown up. And then you also have the church. And then you have the peers. In the course of my journey in adolescent health, I remember a little girl who, when she, as an adolescent, she came to give one of her experiences. She had gone to school. Nobody had told her that she will start menstruating at that point in time. She had left home and gone to live in a boarding school. And then, but what they told her was, now you're growing up. If a man touches you, you will get pregnant. And then a day came when she now saw blood. And then she started crying aloud. And people gathered, what is the problem? That she has become pregnant. So that is the kind of information, because people who are supposed to be leading them on also do not have information. The way we communicate information can actually cause trouble for people. So apart from all these social issues, you find that individuals also have their problems. And as far as adolescents are concerned, their health problems and health challenges are a myriad. But unfortunately, they are the ones who do not even have adequate access to health information or health care. As they are growing up, they have issues with acne, orthopedic issues, patellar dislocation, and all that. They may have short-sightedness because the eyeball is also growing. And then, especially for the females, they may also have some nutritional imbalances, especially when they are going through their menstruation, losing iron and all that. And then, of course, at that point in time, a lot of people are becoming very aware. They want to keep their shapes. So you find that some people starve to just maintain shape. And then, so you find some people being hypocalcemic, and all the rest of them. Now, they also have issues of that's still disorders of growth and development, where they may have delayed puberty. When some of them, when they see others wearing bra and they have not worn, they think something is wrong with them. It may just be delayed. And I know of parents who actually keep bringing their children to the hospital that something is probably wrong with the child, but it may just be that it's not the child's own time yet, or it's just a delayed one. And then you can have other problems like ovarian dysgenesis, chromosomal anomalies. But then, in the midst of this, you have sexuality and sexually related disorders. And these tend to becloud or tend to overshadow most of the problems that adolescents see. You have the teenage pregnancies, you have abortions. In fact, in one of the studies we did, we found that by age 16, we had so many of our girls in Portharcourt, and so many that presented in teaching hospital had abortion. And those are ones that actually came septic, so we don't know the ones that escaped. And during our sessions with the adolescents, we found that some of them will mix pepper and stout as abortifacient. Some drank Izal, and of course, at least I know one that did that but never survived. So you find, and then some others, they get pregnant, and some local persons use hunger to terminate the pregnancy. How they do that, I don't know. And then the other STIs and all that. Now, they also have academic problems. Now, to the point that they can actually have organized crime to break into office, to take exam papers and all that. And then, of course, we know that some parents in this dispensation go to buy papers and buy results, pay for their children to have scores, you know, that will take them into the university. But they don't think of it when they get in. Can they weather through the storm? Now, the other important aspect is that there are decisions to make. Adolescents, especially when they have gotten to late adolescence, there are decisions to make. Decision of career, marriage, sexual, whether they should have sexual intercourse, whether they should have relationships, and whether their peers can actually drag them into their cultic activities. Now, but the problem there is that young people do not have skills in decision making. They act on the spur of the moment. But decision making is an act. It's an art that one has to develop to be able to make proper decisions. Otherwise, the consequences may be disastrous. And then, of course, there's that problem of communication, peer-to-peer communication, parents to child communication that tends to bring a lot of problem. As they are leaving home and disconnecting gradually from parents, they believe that parents are not supposed to lord it over them. It is what, in fact, most times it is what their friends say now that is more important. I remember one of our relations growing up, he was playing a lot, and then the mother said, "Go and read your book." He said, "What is it, Seth? Are you my teacher?" So his only teacher that would have said that, and he will obey. And so you find that sometimes there are those disagreements, and then they have behaviors that have potential for injury, conflict, and addiction. You know, I know a girl who brought in her child in the hospital, and then this child was convulsing at 6 weeks, and we don't know. We did a lumbar puncture and all that. Meanwhile, the mother was at home. It was the grandmother that brought the 6-week-old to the hospital. So, is this baby breastfeeding? The grandmother now said no, that they're giving milk. But the mother is at home. She said yes. I said, stop clacking this child. Go and get the mother. They had to bring the mother. Now, this mother now came to the ward, but we still didn't have evidence of why this child was convulsing. But something happened that made us now decide that maybe we should screen this child for drugs. The 6-week-old screened the girl and screened the baby. And the girl went wild on her. She got angry, carried her baby. She was trying to leave the ward. And then the baby was collected from her. And where we tested the baby actually had one of these drugs in the system. That was when people on the ward confessed that she had her friends that used to bring the drugs for her. So these are some of the problems that we tend to see in this groups. So, but in spite of these problems, there are people who escape. Yes, on the journey through adolescence. And what are those factors that determine the outcome of adjustment? Values. Values are principles you believe in, the things that make you do what you do, not how much your dress costs. The goals. When people set goals for themselves and they're serious with the goals, they work towards the goals. So they tend to discipline themselves, and it helps them to adjust. And then self-esteem, the way you see yourself. There are some people who would say, he that is down needs fear no fall. They would rather carry bag for their Lord and Masters, but they don't work towards being anything significant. And then, of course, adolescents lack skills in decision making. And that is a big problem. They act on the spur of the moment. And of course, the other thing is resiliency, which we have been talking about today. So you find that these things are related: the values, the goals, the self-esteem, skills in decision-making, and resiliency. For instance, there are children who, in a particular family, okay, all of us are here today because we placed emphasis, we have value for this conference. We went to school because our parents had value for education, right? But there are families you can go to, the father does not have value for education, go and do business and make money. Now, but in that same family, a young person can decide to separate his or her values from the family value. We call that values clarification. Now, you can have a team of friends, you know, they are friends, yes, but they are planning to go and break into an office and collect exam paper. And then, but amongst them, there's somebody who, whenever they're doing evil, he decides to leave. So when they catch such people and they're asking who did this, you will notice that nobody will mention this individual, because from time, everybody has known that this boy's value or this girl's value, he has clarified it. So when they do evil, nobody will mention that person's name. So values, yes, you can inherit values, you can adopt values from your family, you know, but you can also clarify, you can have your own values and separate yourself from the values of the family where it does not suit you. And then, of course, talking about skills in decision making, like I did say earlier, young people tend to act on the spur of the moment. But there are 6 stages in decision making. Now, they don't bother about, you know, are there other choices that I can choose from? And if there are others, compare these and that in the long term and in the short term, there are advantages. And then, of course, having compared, you now make a choice, and then eventually you can settle for one. Adolescents don't have that kind of time. They act on the spur of the moment. And then after acting on the spur of the moment, they may regret what has happened. Now, resiliency, which is what we've been talking about since today, is the ability to bounce back after a traumatic event. Something has happened, yes. But you don't settle on that thing and continue to brood and brood and brood and brood. And you don't move forward anymore. Whereas a resilient person will bounce back and move on. Now, why is that person able to move on? Now, resiliency, when you go back to family, you find that mothers tend to have intrinsic ability for resilience, and they tend to also transfer it to their children, their offsprings. I'm not saying that some may not derail by the association of peers, but there's that tendency, intrinsic tendency for mothers to fight. Are you with me? When a child is ill, you notice that the mother will do anything possible to make sure that that child is well. It doesn't matter whether she has the money or not. You will see them sell whatever they have. So there's that intrinsic attribute for a resilient person to fight. But then when something bad happens, it does not mean you should dwell on that bad thing today, tomorrow, 1 month, 3 months, 4 months. Because of it, you've closed down your business, and every day you're saying, if only that thing has not happened, if only that one has not happened. That is not being resilient. Being resilient is, yes, something has happened. Nobody says you should not be angry. Nobody says you should not cry. Nobody says you should not weep or it should not pain you. But after that, what next? You bounce back and move on, having learnt your lessons from some of the things that have happened. And that's the point we're making today, that we need to build the resilience of young people, adolescents. A lot of them, when they, well, like I've mentioned, looking like a 14-year-old gets pregnant now, she drops out of school, and that is it. The next thing you see her doing is either going around with a plate in the hand, going around begging. Why? Because nobody has sat down to groom her over, bouncing back in terms of resilience. But it's not just that nobody has groomed her. What about the family she came from? Because, let me say this, parenting is a skill, right? And we say that parenting is a creative experience. Now, if you are a parent, you have to, what you did for this person, yes, it may have worked, and then you want to do it for another person, and it's not working. You don't dwell on that. You try something else, whether it will work, because it's not, one cap does not fit all. Each child comes with his or her own attributes. So we find that resiliency starts when the child has been brought into the family, and in relation to even the community. Resiliency is built around this individual. And in interacting with individuals, interacting with the community, interacting with other forces, and the individual is seeing how other people have bounced back from traumatic experiences. The person is encouraged to also build up. But if you decide that a 14-year-old went to school, got pregnant, and then that is the end of school, the person has not thought of the future. What happens in future? And nobody in that family has decided, keep this child here, we'll look after the child, go back to school. The reason being that if she goes back to school and finishes, she will not be on a better footing to take care of this child in the future. Is that not so? But if she stays at home, she's a burden, the baby is a burden, and whoever was providing is also being dragged down with them because the resources will not be enough. And it's not as if any additional resource is coming in. So you find that family quality of relationship is very important in building self-esteem, relationship with other people, and adjustment outcomes, talking about how they come out of the experiences of adolescents. So the family quality of relationship and helps them, if it's a positive relationship, it helps the adolescent to adjust to all the changes that accompany adolescents, and then also helps them to build a better image of themselves. There are people who will say, he that is down needs fear no fall, and they remain there. All they do is carry bag for those who are doing better and follow the person behind, because that's how they want to be fitting. Now, the adjustment outcome, their identity, confidence, and trust. So if they do not have confidence in themselves, they cannot take on any responsibilities. They cannot even move forward. Now, the other thing is that society, like I talked about, the society and their influence on their belief system, culture, religion, politics, way of life, work, can influence the individual. There are places you go to, an adolescent gets pregnant, then what they do is they bring the mother and fine her for her adolescent girl getting pregnant without marrying. That is their culture. As if the mother had to go and get pregnant. And this sometimes leads, when the girls look at it, they don't want their mothers to be disgraced in public. What they do is, when they find they are pregnant, they run away from home. And in the running away from home, they may, do abortion and die, or they may just stay somewhere, have the baby, dump the baby there, which is why we pick up babies here and there, That is what a cultural practice has done. And then asset development. This is a current concept in human development. Now, it's a framework that has 4 main purposes. It seeks to provide a language, core elements, that when it's available in the community, it can actually help promote experiences and processes known to promote short-term and long-term well-being. Now, the concept actually has external assets and internal assets. Now, the external assets deal with what the individuals around and the community can provide and government. And then, of course, it becomes the responsibility of the community to provide those external assets to help and use it for the development of the children born in that community. Whereas the internal assets, whilst external assets can be provided by the community, internal assets is an individual thing. You have to develop your internal assets by yourself. So first, it seeks to promote a language of core elements. Okay, second, this is external assets. Empower, mobilize residents, families, neighborhoods, youth organizations, religious institutions, and the rest of community. Is rooted in the studies that child and adolescent development with additional focus on the more applied literature of prevention, high-risk behaviors, substance abuse, and all that. Now, see, these external assets actually act as protective factors, enhancing the thriving outcomes of young people in the community. Now, do you know that there are communities that have a lot of assets? Oil, what do you call that now? Precious stones and all whatnot. These things can actually be converted and used to, train the young people from that community. But a few individuals corner them and utilize it for themselves, while some others, die in penury and never really get up. So, but these external assets are actually in that community and can actually be used to boost the image. And then, of course, encourage, also increase their resiliency, to rebound in the face of adversity. Now, but you have, like I said, you have the internal assets. External assets help promoting features of the environment, and internal assets are commitments, values, competencies, and so on, which you can only find in the individuals. So internal assets are competencies, skills, and self-perception that young people develop gradually over time. They evolve as a result of numerous experiences, but the growth of internal assets is a slower, more complex and idiosyncratic process of self-regulation. So these are the internal assets. They are in 4 categories: commitment to learning, positive values, social competencies, and positive identity. Now, when you talk about commitment to learning, the individual also would need the help of adults and the school in that environment for the person to achieve this. But like I said, the onus is on that individual to actually express and develop his or her internal assets so that he can become a positive personality. Just showing you again, families are there. Now, this is just to remind us that when we are talking about resilience, we're not talking about resilience in isolation. We're talking about, you see, the influence each person brings. Now, we're talking about resilience as the ability of a person to rebound even in the face of adversity, after having gone through adversity. Now, but this person has that ability to rebound because there is a positive influence around the person, and not that the system around the person keeps depressing the person, and the person is not developing. So you find that in resilience, yes, something has happened. Yes, you have a right to be angry. You have the right to be depressed. But you have to rebound, right? And the experiences you have had with others who have had similar experiences are enough. And then the supportive system you have in your around you also helps you to make it, to finally succeed. But if there are no supportive systems like that, it becomes, the person just keeps going down and down and down. You see somebody who yesterday was doing very well, and then, okay, had a motor accident, and that car was a write-off on the road, and then he sits at home, he doesn't go out anymore, he doesn't do anything anymore. All he does is, maybe sometimes he comes out to come and beg you, give me 50 naira, give me 1,000 naira. The day you refuse, you become enemy. All right? But if the society, talking about the external assets that I mentioned, if the society had used that provision made by the community, you know, the linkage, adult linkages, the school, because these influences are not supposed to come from one person. That's why those resources are there. If the individual was benefiting from the support system that he's growing up in, and then you find that, yes, you go down, but the next day you get up, and then you reschedule, you modify your schedule. Whatever resources that are available, you also redirect them. If you were doing 1 million naira business, you're not likely to do 1 million naira business immediately you come out of that adversity. You may have to cut down and then gradually start building up. And it's a personality issue. There are people who think that by right, they're supposed to remain up there, right? They cannot come down. It's a shameful thing and all that. But if their personality, if they had an adequate personality development, they should understand that once in a while adversity happens. And they would have also had that experience and learned from other people. So when we say resilience, we're talking about bouncing back in spite of an adverse situation. Now, let me rush to how do we build resilience, because the topic says building resilience in the adolescents. How do we build resilience? In the course of this discussion, I did mention certain things. Self-esteem, right? Did I mention self-esteem? I mentioned that adolescents do not have skills in decision-making. Now, some people growing up, they are aggressive. Some others are, assertive. And others are passive. Now, the assertive person does not insult, but he stands on his ground and he does it politely, right? And if he has learned that growing up at home, you've helped that individual to build resilience in the face of maybe something happens, there's aggressiveness and all that. The person may not return aggressiveness, but will stand his or her ground. And you cannot, take what opportunities that are meant for that individual, because he can defend himself, he or she can defend himself. Now, but the passive person is not saying yes, is not saying no, right? It's not saying yes, it's not saying no. And that is why they are taken for granted. Most times, some of the people who are raped are passive. It's their passivity that has caused it. Say, when you no, say no and stand on no. Not, nobody can understand you. So your passivity puts you at risk. And that is it. The young persons must learn to speak out for themselves. Now, for the aggressive person, you may become a victim because you are aggressive, to be destroyed because you have ability to talk. You can talk anything. We were discussing some people destroying others on internet. Is it not so? Chatting with the person, and before you know it, the person has gone mad and is raining abuses and all that. Aggressive personality. Aggressive persons can actually fall victim. There are people who decide, I will teach a lesson, and they now plan for gang raping and gang rape them. So we would rather prefer that you have an assertive personality, right? You respect yourself, you respect the other person, you don't put anybody down. But your thing is your self-esteem. How do you build your self-esteem? The way you see yourself is the way other people will see you. So how you want people to see you, you have to say, he that is down needs fear no fall. Then you remain down. And then people can tread upon you. And then you have decided that what you'll do is be a back carrier for other people who want to go higher. People build their values. What are values? Values are the principles you believe in. The things that make you do what you do. Value is not how much your dress costs. Somebody, you're wearing a dress. And, hey, how much did you buy it? I bought it 20 naira. Only 20 naira. I bought my own for 50 naira. That is not the value we're talking about. The principles you believe in, what makes you do what you do. And I did mention that you can develop your values from your family. You can also develop from your friends or from the system you're growing up in. But there's something we call values clarification. Now, you cannot say because your father is an armed robber, you decide that you want to be an armed robber. Because that's what he handed over to you. No. You can separate yourself from that value. Right? I cannot be an armed robber because my father was an armed robber. I cannot be an illiterate because my father didn't go to school. Therefore, if he says don't go to school, I don't go to school. You separate yourself from the values. You belong to that family, yes. But when evil or whatever adverse event happens in terms of value, nobody will call your name. Go to school to go and break office to steal question paper. And when they are asking, who are the people, they mention your name. People will say, no, it's not that one. If it's that one, we know him. He cannot be involved. You can separate your values from value that is not right for you. Going naked on the road and they say they are wearing dresses. And that's because parents also do not have time. Parents don't have time. So these children, because they see people doing it, they've taken it on and nobody is cautioning them. But if you instill discipline, there are certain things that your children should not wear outside and come out. Is that not so? So, certain responsibilities are placed on parents that when they ignore, sometimes our children derail. When they ignore them, our children derail. I want to say here that parenting is a skill. We can say parenting adolescents is a creative experience. It's a creative experience. People say adolescents give trouble. Adolescents give trouble. We already know that the trouble they're giving is not that they deliberately are giving you problem. They themselves are having problem because their internal measure is disorganized with the amount of hormone pouring in. Let's look at it this way. A child is born, right? Everything is at equilibrium. The child is normal, feeding, everybody is happy. By the time they get into 7, 8, then, in fact, if you're coming, the child closes the door. Why is the person closing door? There's a disequilibrium now, right? Levels of sex hormones are beginning to rise. And for the child, it's as if he suddenly is discovering himself or herself. That's why he's shutting the door or she's shutting the door. All right? So, you find that it will happen. It will happen. But you as mother, how are you handling it? Parenting is a skill, like I said, and is a creative experience. And then you need to also know that parenting, no cap, no size fits all. The fact that you beat up this child and the child started behaving well does not mean that if you beat up the other one, it will start behaving well. I don't know whether you understand what I mean. So, if you're parenting an adolescent, it is a creative experience. If you try this way, it doesn't work, change your style. Now, there are some of us too who may have ruined adolescents without knowing, because we are the significant other in the person's life. You may not know that a child is viewing you and expecting to be like you. A little girl was asked some time ago. She was telling her classmate. She sits at the back of the class, and she said to her classmate, all this thing auntie is talking self. When I grow up, you know what I will be? I will be an ashawo. Primary school. And why did she choose to be an ashawo? Because where she lives, there's this auntie that one car will come, carry her. Another one will come, drop her. Another one will come, carry her. No, that she will not be suffering this thing auntie is talking in class, that she will be an ashawo. That's a child in primary school. So, you do not know that your lifestyle has influenced somebody. And what that child becomes in future, you're part of it. The other thing is, you, the significant other in the life of that child. You may not be the mother, you may not be the father. But this, please, I wish I had longer time to keep talking. But we are talking about adolescents and how to build resilience in them. Now, it's not just us as father and mother. Schools are supposed to help us also reinforce this resilience we're talking about. And if we all put our hands on deck, all of us jointly, we'll be able to raise. We may not deliver 100%, but God will help us. Gradually, we will get where we're going. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, man, for that insightful presentation. My name is Sunday Sanusi Agbabiaka from Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. The determinants of value, you've just explained the area I would have loved to ask the question. But I want to ask about this passive, aggressive, and assertive. Are they also has to do with family traits or a kind of value that a adolescent can promote? Two, man. In Tanzania, 15 years ago, thereabout, there is this policy developed. When a teenage girl is pregnant, he stops school. But some NGOs came up and said, what about the boy that put her in a family way? And he will be going to school, and is there no way we can also adopt such policy within our sector here to be able to, use some of our teenage boys as a deterrent of this, having this unwanted pregnancy among our female youth? These are just the two things I want clarification.
Thank you very much. Even in Portharcourt here in Rivers State, it was also a problem for us, because you find that the pregnant girl drops out of school, right? But the boy keeps going to school and becomes an engineer or a pilot, and many years after goes and gets married. Now, we had a girl who dropped out of school and was now selling pepper. But the boy who put her in the family way had to finish school and come out. So it is an issue of, one is, does the girl know who impregnated her? Because sometimes it can also be the stupidity of the girl. If she knows who impregnated her, and there are people who can take up the challenge, sometimes you find that part of the problem we have in Nigeria is there are places you go to. If a girl gets pregnant out of wedlock, they sanction the mother. Yes, the community sanctions the mother that she could not look after her child. That's why the girl got pregnant. So these girls sometimes, when they get pregnant, they don't want their mothers to be disgraced in public. So they run away from home. And then when they run away from home, they can have the baby and dump the baby out there. And you won't even know they had a child. Or they can have the baby and remain there, never go back to school and all that, because their parents, the mother may have also said, don't come home. Or she may be feeling for her mother. She doesn't want her mother to be disgraced in public. Now, for such things, we need to look at some of these customary laws that we make. because it makes the girls get into trouble. They can die trying to abort, and then we tend to have a lot of babies abandoned here and there. Now, so we need to look at such customary laws. Now, but if the girl knows who is responsible for the pregnancy, the thing is, well, we have in Portharcourt here, we've been able to put somebody behind bars because the girl was able to recognize who did it. Yes, and we were able to find somebody who knows the boy and brought him to us as if he was coming for a contract. But he didn't know that we had already kept police people around. So when he came, we called out the girl. We asked him, do you know this girl? He kept looking up and down, up and down. We now asked the girl, do you know this man? He said, this is the shirt he was wearing the day he did it to me. This is what he did. This is what he did. While he was still doing that, the police people took him away, put him behind the, what do they call that now? He sent for his brother. His brother came there and I asked him, what are you doing here? And that this girl lied against him, and the brother said, are you the only man in Portharcourt that a 10-year-old will see you and say it's you? You know, so if they know who, and there's something called human interest litigation, if you're able to reach somebody who has that human interest litigation, even if the parents don't have money to go to court, the lawyer can decide to take up the challenge. So we have had such situations. Now, like I said, the other one is for all of us to try and see how we can change certain customary laws that discriminate against females. Now, because a girl gets pregnant, the parents are getting angry, they will not send the girl back to school. And she just stays there. But if you send that girl back to school, for the period she's in school, you take the stress. When she comes out, you stand a better chance because she cannot make money and take the stress of looking after this child. But they don't look at it that way. At the end of the day, the girl is at home, not doing anything, begging for food. The child is at home, malnourished. At the end of the day, it's a lose-lose battle. So that's how it is. Passive behavior is sometimes some people become passive from growing up the way the person was raised in the family, not necessarily as a trait. Yes, I agree that some people can have the trait, you know, but there are people who experiences in the house have made them passive because maybe the people who, especially if they grew up under foster parents and, you know, house helps and all that, they have been so intimidated that they cannot express themselves. But apart from that, there are also people who have it as hereditary traits, just like you can have aggressive behaviors. And these, especially the aggressive one, they are related to issues happening in the brain, secretions and amygdaloid and all that, you know. So when they come out, as they are growing, they can become aggressive. But there are children who were not passive at delivery, but the relationship in the house, mother has gone to work, father has gone to work, there's a house help in the house who intimidates them. So even when you're asking the child a question, because that figure is there, the child will not say anything. So it is for us parents to look at the children we have in our houses and find out why our children are behaving the way they're behaving. And if you think this is why this child is, you have to take that child out of that environment to be able to get anything. Sometimes they have even been threatened. If you say anything, I will kill you. So certain children are living under that condition. But it's for us to be able to extract that information and assure them that nothing will happen to them.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. We would like to call on the LOC chairman to come perform this next task. Professor Maduka, please. We're close to our destination, but we're still in the ride. Right now, we have the winner for the logo that was launched, presented in the house. Logo was actually presented as a competition for adolescents in the country, you know, to design as part of Sayphin's inclusiveness in their conferences. Adolescents get to participate at this level in designing the logo for the conference. And this was conducted this year. And Mr. Joshua Adeboye emerged as the winner. He designed this lovely logo we have
to be the best.
Please, he deserves that award, please.
Nothing less. Lead me to my destiny.
To present
I have
the check
waited patiently
for winning this competition and designing this beautiful logo for Garden City 2025, I give you Mr. Joshua Adeboye.
Stand up for the champions.
Now, Professor Regina Munzi, please come and help us give this. Professor Regina, please. We're calling on Professor Regina Munzi. Yes, ma'am. Please come and hand over this check. This very heavy check. Yes.
When we celebrate,
yes.
We dey pop champagne. We dey pop champagne.
So congratulations to Joshua Adeboye. Say a few words.
I want to congratulate.
Okay. So Sayphin flew Joshua Adeboye all the way from Kaduna. Should I tell them that it's your first time flying? Sorry, I didn't know whether you wanted me to tell them or not. So we're excited. Congratulations, Joshua. May this be the beginning of many more awards. Can I, on behalf of the LOC, promise you a ticket for the 2025 conference? We're bringing you back. Well done, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That is a high note. LOC Garden City 2025. Can I also have a ticket? Thank you very much, everybody. Right now, we have the secretary of the local organizing committee to come give her vote of thanks as we are very close to our destination. Thank you.
Much while the photo shoots is still going on. Thank you. It's been a long day. And we hope to see you 2025 by the grace of God. So to that effect, we have our conference proper. This is just the logo launch. And you can see how promising the conference is. So the conference proper will be coming up in August 13th to 16th, 2025. A round of applause. Usually when we do that, we have a pre-conference preceding the conference proper. And this is solely a youth event, hosted by the youth, organized by the youth, and so on. Honestly, you will bless me if you come there. Yes, you will remember me. So thank you. We look forward to that. The pre-conference, the youth in the house, and so on. Please, let's publicize this. I think the conference logo should be up somewhere because the website is on. Today is also to launch the website. So please look out for it. Sayphin everywhere. If you Google Sayphin, you will see us. We're everywhere. And just to say that Sayphin does a lot. And we're all about adolescents. And we're all about all that concerns adolescents. So all the thematic areas, all the domains concerning adolescents, we do that. You know, you will find them. If you're looking for information, you can find them in our website. We talked about policy. We talked about documents that you can't find. You can hold me on that. You will find it in our website. So visit our website. And I think in line with this, we're calling out for membership. It's a free call, and we're leaving it open. We don't want to restrict it, so we're leaving it open. Membership is open to everyone. Please visit our website again, and you can register to be a member of Sayphin. There are a lot of advantages to being a member of Sayphin. I don't think I want to give it away for free. Just go to the website and you will find it. So that is it. Another interesting thing we do in preparation for our conference is that there's a call for abstract. But unlike what happens in other organizations and so on, we also do a training for the abstract. Isn't that interesting? So we have technical people, we have very seasoned professionals, both in the academia, in the developing world, all come together, and we give a training, for abstract writing, even before you write the abstract and then submit it. So you find out that our abstracts and are usually very rich, very educative, and it spans across different areas. So please take advantage of what we have. I think for now, this is for the announcements. Every other thing you're looking out for, you can find it in our website. So we have loaded information there. Thank you.
Co-organizing committee of this event, Ms. Chigozirim, to come give her vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate God Almighty for the success of this event. Also want to appreciate the chairman of the program. Want to appreciate our guest of honor, our special guests. We also want to appreciate the keynote speaker. Thank you, Ma, for gracing our occasion. Want to appreciate all the panelists that were present. Also want to appreciate our sponsors, our partners. Want to appreciate WHO, UNFPA, SPARKU, Federal Ministry of Health, M1, NMA. We also want to appreciate the university students, PUMSA and RIMUSA. Also want to appreciate all the schools that released their students. We approached 10 schools, and all the 10 schools gave us consent, and they came with the teacher came with them. It was a very beautiful one. Also want to appreciate Sayphin Executive. Thank you. Also want to appreciate SPARKU for coming all the way, flying all the way from Abuja, from Lagos, Akure, Ondo, and all parts of the country to attend. Also, we want to appreciate the chief host, Professor Fatusi. Thank you for organizing this wonderful event. Also, the last and not the least, we want to appreciate the LOC executive. It has not been easy, sleepless nights, calls, and all that. And I pray that as we all came safely, we arrive home safely, safe and sound, in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, everyone. I want to especially appreciate again the UNFPA for their funding. They've been so wonderful since the inception of this organization up to now. Thank you so much for your sponsorship and for your partnership. God bless you and bless you more in Jesus' name. All right, thank you.